I've been wanting to talk about the rising of the Shield Hero for a number of weeks, probably coming on months now, since Season 4 is currently airing as recording, but pretty much is winding up. And I've seen a lot of videos talking about the rising of the Shield Hero, or just Shield Hero. And I feel like every time I see a video discussing about it, they all say the exact same thing. I've never seen so many anti-tubers talk about Shield Hero and just say the exact same thing, and it's almost hilarious because a lot of them seem to ignore major plot points that are explained in the anime and then proceed to use that as a bouncing board of complaining about. But I also think one of the problems of the Rising of the Shield Hero is that it was falsely marketed and advertised to the fanbase, but not by the anime itself, not by the studio, not by the streaming platform, but by its haters. And this is where, yeah, we're going to briefly talk about a couple of touchy topics, but I want to really dive into where I think the actual failing of the Rising of the Shield Hero comes from is not necessarily in the anime. All of it, not all of it. There is some issues with the anime, but I feel like a lot of it comes down to the wrong audience started watching it for the wrong reasons. So we need to go back to Season 1. Season 1, of course, we all know about the controversy, the revenge plot, the accusation that was made on Naofumi. Some of you may not remember, but I definitely have a good memory on this. Some of you will. Let's go back memory lane of all the drama that stirred up because of the false accusation. All the content creators saying that we can't have this in an anime because it's highly inappropriate, it's too controversial. Politics was dragged into it. Certain political anime websites weaponized conversations about it and turned this whole situation of the accusation that Naofumi was accused of, and I can't say it because of YouTube reasons, but basically that was a major subplot for people, and a lot of people started watching The Rising of the Shield Hero specifically because of that subplot. But the way they market it was as if it was the main plot of the story. Like, the whole point of The Rise of the Shield Hero is about the accusation. And the biggest problem is that people just kind of expected it to continue going on for a multitude of seasons. Like, oh yes, this is going to be the main story and everything else is just like subplots. But in reality, the revenge was the subplot and the ways is the main plot. But the thing is in Season 1, there was a heavy focus and an emphasis on the accusations because that was the thing that was making Naofumi's life difficult. On top of the fact that the Curse series was another thorn in his side, all contributed because of the accusations, and he definitely had to go down some pretty dark paths to be able to get any form of power. It led into a lot of people rushing into the Rise of the Shield Hero purely on the revenge story. And if you can remember all the anti-tubers that kicked and screamed their lungs off about how bad this anime is because of that subplot, and it's the worst anime since sliced bread, and now you look at a bit of a time lapse, all these anti-tubers are like, oh yes, Season 1 was so amazing, it was the best thing ever, and then it went bad, and it's like, I still remember all the videos complaining about Season 1. All the people saying that they shouldn't have this in there because it's too controversial. Now, it's, okay, that revenge plot's allowed, but the slave stuff, oh no, that was going too far. And it's just like, again, that goalpost continuously gets moved. I know it's a touchy topic, but I feel like a lot of anti-tubers don't want to talk about that because it's a past that a lot of them want to sort of ignore because it was something that happened. It was a major topic point when it came to the Rising of the Shield Hero. And yes, a lot of websites and anti-tubers talked about it in a not so negative light, and they're fine to have that opinion. But I just feel like a lot of them have now suddenly gone, oh no, we don't remember all our complaints about that. We were totally fine with that revenge plot line. We just had a problem with the slave system, which they misrepresent. Because that is another issue, is that the crest system is called the slave crest because of how it's used in a negative light, but as I've described it, and I've made analysis videos breaking down how the system works from a light novel and an anime's perspective, because it does explain it in the anime, is that it's more like joining a clan, or like a crest. Like a crest is like, hey, look, I'm part of this group, guild, clan, club, community, whatever you want to call it, and the leader has different powers and privileges. They can either be really laxed on it and just say, yeah, sure, anyone can join, anyone can leave. there's some basic requirements, that's about it. Or you can be draconic and say, no, you must follow every order I give. Pull the slider down and become a dictatorship. There's that slider of how the system can be used. Of course, it's generally used by nefarious people, which is why it gets the name that it gets. Because of how it's used by these nefarious people. That is somewhat pretty well explained. It doesn't need to throw it in your face and be like,
excuse me, are you stupid enough to not understand 1 + 1 = 2?
It doesn't need to treat you like you're a toddler. But the problem is a lot of anti-tubers and content creator people out there that kind of talk about this system need to be really dumbed down and go, okay, let's pull out the kiddie toys now and really explain it slowly for you. And then they still complain. Because I feel like a lot of people didn't really pay attention, because this is what happens when you watch shows in 2-3 times speed or you skip major plot points. Now, is the Rise and the Shield Hero great at explaining things? Season 2? Definitely not. And that is mainly because the volumes that were covered in the first half of Season 2 weren't good volumes to start with. They were much weaker volumes. There was a lot of exposition dumping, unnecessary exposition dumping. The pacing was all over the place. And so the anime tried to wiggle its way around that problem, but did a really bad job at it. I feel like they needed to spend a little bit more time getting that pacing a little bit more ironed out, remove the unnecessaries, keep the necessaries, and also just improve the overall animation qualities, because Turtle looks stupid. But as far as the second half goes, I think it was pretty adequate. Now, was there too many characters being introduced? No, I just think some of that's just down to people just not really... The fact that people have sat there and said the Pope story in Season 1 doesn't make any sense when it is actually explained, and he's pretty... I mean, he goes on a giant exposition dumping of what his motive is and why he's doing what he's doing, which is literally, his reasoning is, you four are stupid and useless and I don't like you, so we're going to take your powers and use them for our own nefarious purposes. That's literally the plot. And then you've got people in the AniTube community going, that plot wasn't explained. It literally was. I hate using that word, literally. Ugh. But it was. It was very thoroughly explained. There was an exposition dump, an annoying one at that, but it was there. But surprise, surprise,
it wasn't explained because I didn't watch the show correctly.
the same thing with the whole marketing. Oh, but isn't the Rise and the Shield Hero mostly about a revenge? No. There's a multitude of other things going on. It's just a part that's been a major thorn in Naofumi's side at that current time. Once it's overcome, well, this is the thing. The revenge plot isn't quite finished. It's mostly finished. I'd say 80% resolved, but there's still a little bit left. So a lot of people just stopped caring because, oh, well, that's what they came for, because that was what the drama was about when Season 1 first aired. That's what most of the discussion is always about. And people don't want to talk about why people were watching it. Instead, they just go, yeah, it was a unique, interesting isekai, and that's why. It was like, no. A lot of people watched it because of the drama. Can we stop hiding facts and reality of what happened during Season 1? Please? Please? So, you finish with Season 2. It's pacing a little bit dodgy at the first half, better in the second half, and then you have Season 3. Pacing is still somewhat adequate. There's some new characters introduced, some more plot points getting moved along, and then you have Season 4. Pacing is much better. It's a more interesting story. There's a lot more politics going on. There's a little bit more back and forth, bit more explaining of why people act in the way it is. But when you go through that entire point of Seasons 1, 2, 3, and a bit of 4, but I would say ignore 4 for the time being, there is a major thing that is being explained that is being majorly looked over. And that is the Curse series. Because now for me has the whole rage going on, like the rah, I'm angry, look at my fiery fury, I'm really mad and I'm getting corrupted. But this is where a lot of people complain and go, oh, but the other 3 heroes were really stupid and useless and they fell for her tricks as well, and that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it does. It's called the Curse series. The lolly chicken, not the one that now for me is, got, that's constantly trying to, I don't know, dry hump him. Not that one, but the other one. The elderly lolly chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know that one? You remember in Season 1 when it explained about the Curse series and talked about how it will be a thorn in the side? Yeah, that explaining. And then throughout seasons 2 and 3, that it explained. You know, the same curse series, it's like the cardinal sins. You know, that subplot that was explained thoroughly throughout. And again, season 1, 2, and 3 has its issues when it comes to explaining things, but there are things explained that people just ignore. That was explained thoroughly. Really thoroughly. The other 3 heroes have their own issues going on when it comes to the curse series. What does the curse series do? It talks to their head. It gets in their brain. It makes them do stupid, irrational things. Did you not remember what happened in Now For Me? They don't need to go 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 6. Oh, god damn it, I got it wrong. It's like, it doesn't need to treat you like a toddler. Now For Me had a curse on him. Look at how he behaved. Look at how it corrupted him. Oh, look, the other heroes have got a curse going on. I wonder what's going on with that. It's like, that's why there's irrationality going on. It doesn't need to dumb it down so badly that it needs to ham-fist it in your face like you're a preschooler. But for some reason, people kind of ignore that whole subplot. And then go, oh, well, I'm so surprised that these other 3 heroes are so uselessly stupid. That's why. Kentucky Fried Chicken elderly version over in the corner sitting there going, yeah, I might consider offing the 4 of you off if you don't get along, because if you can't solve this curse problem and get along, I'm just going to have to find a cheaper replacement that might be somewhat better. Like, season 1 explained. And this is where I find a lot of the problems with criticism when it comes to the Rising of the Shield Hero. Is a lot of it comes down to, I didn't pay attention and I went to watch the show because of something that was not the major plot point. Now, my biggest issue when it comes to Shield Hero is more to do with the fact that they add a lot of power progression systems that they never talk about. Like, there are all these systems that all the heroes get, and you never see them kind of explain, like, go through it. Like, the only systems that they really delve into, and they stay, even in the light novels, they stay, like, focused on is leveling. Because they have the levels, and then they have, like, all the sort of, like, you can, like, boost up that level and break that cap, and you got to do these requirements to do that. And then you've got, like, gear, like, different zones, different gear, higher gear. It's like, it's very much like an MMO. You go to a new zone, you get higher level monsters, and you get different, like, materials that you can then make better gear. You put the gear in your weapon, and you get some extra stats and different shields, or weapons, spears, swords, bows, etc. That's the basic system that they use 99% of the time. But there was also other systems, like a mastery point system, and a bunch of other, like, miscellaneous ones as well, that they very rarely ever touch on. Which I felt like, okay, maybe we didn't have to, like, add in all these additional power progression systems and then never explain them again. Just stick to the core ones. And there's also that complaint that Now For Me only uses 1 shield. Well, that's just factually incorrect. He uses a multitude of shields for different things. Whether it's things for, like, grinding up herbs, he uses a certain shield that makes it better. He uses other shields when it's, like, mining, or when he wants to create, like stairs. Or if he wants to use, like, almost like a hook shot, like a rope. Those are those utility-based ones. Then in combat, yeah, he can flick between a couple. But sometimes he has a bit of a reflex to go, oh, things are a little bit hard. I know, I'll just go to my default curse series. And everyone's like, no, do something different, boy. And he does. He uses other shields when it's necessary. There are certain shields in different situations that have better advantages and disadvantages. Buff-based ones, etc., etc. He does change shields, but also the other reason why is that he goes around, looks for other shields, and then kind of scans them is because they just give him raw stats. That's a lot of the things. You put materials in, you find other shields, he gives you raw stats, you keep buffing it up. It's a simple sort of, like, again, MMO-ish kind of thing. Collect things, collectible kind of things. Then you've also got the level system, which also does raw stats. You've then got also the gear that also buffs stats. You got those other systems that no one really talks about, even in the light novels, like the mastery system, etc. And then, the one thing that Now For Me uses, and the reason why he uses it purely for stat boosts, mostly, which is the crest system. Because I'm just going to call it the crest system. Because that's really what it is. It's just, it's got a bad name. But the reason why he is so adamant on trying to get people to use it is because it comes with a pretty big stat boost. Like, it is pretty fundamentally important because it gives that really good edge that when you've got the crest on, you have those additional stats, those additional bonuses that can make or break a fight. And when he's trying to build up almost like a little militia or an army to help fight the waves because he knows that it's not going to be easy, then he wants people to join these groups, join his little crest clan, and then get those additional buffs. And also, as explained in the anime, as they're leveling with all of these additional boosts and making sure they level from level 1 onwards, they get their stats distributed and all these extra bonuses correctly. So they get that extra juice. It's like, and I'm using a hypothetical number, think of an extra like 20 or so % extra power. When you do it correctly, when you level properly, you have all these systems in place, you get grinded up, you get that little bit of extra boost, and it's a big make or break. Even 10% would be a lot, especially in these kinds of like online style games. That 10% make or breaks a fight, can be the difference between life or death. 20% is what I feel like the crest system really emphasizes on. Like, it's a pretty big boost. And that's why now for me is pretty hung up on being like, hey, you need this. And the only setting, to be very clear, the only setting that he has is that you cannot lie to him. That's the only setting he has. You can join, you can leave, you can disobey him. He might get annoyed at you, but you're not allowed to lie to him. That's the one thing that he has set, is that you cannot lie. And the reason why he has it like that is because of the fact that he was lied to. All that time back in season 1, he was lied to. And I see a lot of people still complain that, oh, well, he's still prickly and all the rest. Yeah, he's jaded. Oh, well, he doesn't, like, absorb all these chicks trying to sleep with him. Yeah, because he has trust issues. That's why he's jaded. That's why he's distrusting. That's why he puts that one setting in place that you can't lie to him. That's why he's not trying to jump on some bigaloogos, Mount Everest's, gajigaligaloo, melons. That's why he isn't trying to, build a harem. Because he's still distrusting. And certain characters, like Raftalia, understand that. That's why she's struggling, because her feelings towards him are quite strong. But she also understands that he is still distrusting. But he also sees her as like a daughter kind of character, while she sees him differently. Now, will that change later on? You'll just have to find out in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z to find out where that plot goes. But there are other characters that have distinct feelings, strong feelings towards him. Does he reciprocate them? No. Why? Because he's distrusting. He's not even thinking about romance, because he remembers what happened to him in season 1. Wouldn't you be a little bit distrusting if that kind of stuff happened to you in the real world, where someone destroys your entire life and turns people against you, and people try to kill you multiple times? Might I add, people tried to kill him multiple times. Do you think you would just live and forget overnight? No, you wouldn't. So there's a lot of reasons why the story is structured the way it is. Is it a perfect story? No, there is definitely animation issues. There's definitely some pacing issues. I feel like most of the animation issues are in season 2 of part 1. The rest I feel like is more nitpicky. I feel like a lot of people just want a Demon Slayer or a solo leveling animation sometimes. You're not going to get that. This is one of the things about animes that get multiple seasons, is the animation quality kind of sticks to a bit of a sort of a mid-range. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's just kind of in the middle, because that allows it to get multiple seasons. Now, will Shield Hero fail? No. It's extremely popular. It gets multiple collaborations. It has a boatload of figures constantly going out. As someone that has 2 figures of Rising of the Shield Hero, one that's a little bit more raunchy of Raftalia and a more normal version of Raftalia, there's a lot of figures out there. A lot. And there's a lot of collaborations, there's a lot of merchandise, just in general outside of the figure selection. And then you've got the source material that sells pretty decent. You've got the manga and the light novels, and the manga is pretty popular too. The only issue is the fact that, and I haven't checked and I haven't updated myself on this, I don't think there's been any still new light novels come out. I'd have to double check. But there was such a, if a new volume has come out recently, then there was a massive distance between when new volumes came out, and it was due to some drama with the publishers and stuff. Can't remember all the finer details, but yeah, there's that. But do I think Rise of the Shield Hero has failed? No. I do think one of the biggest glaring issues is repetition when it comes to villain archetypes, and that is something people might notice in the end of this season, if they really delve into it, or if there is a season 5, which I think there is a decent chance, not guaranteed, but I do think season 5 is something that could inevitably happen. But if you get to that point, you're going to see some of those same archetypes kind of used where he gives similar names to. There's also just some hints to stories that were going to come that were hinted in season 3 but never happened. The hints to season 4 never really happened. It's like, it's kind of all over the place. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Shield Hero is one of those where I've read the source material, and as much as I have my criticisms for the source material and even for the anime, I feel like a lot of the criticisms just fall short. Because I feel like most of it is all based on things that are just either not paid attention to or are just falsely marketed from season 1, which always comes down to the revenge plotline or subplot. It is a subplot to me. I always have seen it as a subplot, but people treat it as the main plot of the story. I think it's an interesting spark to the story, and I do somewhat kind of wish that that subplot still stayed a little bit more relevant. They could have kept it relevant even with how it ended in season 1. And also the fact is that a lot of people complain that, oh, well, he just ended up letting them loose off the hook because he just ended up giving them a name instead of chopping their heads off. You want to know why he did that? And it does actually show it in the anime. The Queen. It just didn't do the thing again. And here comes the voice.
1 + 1 = 2. The Queen didn't want her husband and child killed or executed, so she got a little bit upset and showed distress. He wasn't stupid and could see that and decided, you know what, I won't be cruel. I will just give them a bad name, put a crest on them, tighten the loose lines on it so they can't do anything really bad, and then they're on their merry-go way. That was the reason why. The Queen. That's why the Queen kind of owes him a fair bit, and that's why she's willing to bend over. Sometimes I wish, literally, would bend over backwards to help him. Because she feels indebted, because he could have had them chopped off, and he was about to do it. But she persuaded him because he could see the distress. And she was also willing to negotiate and throw some heavy bargains on the table, and not explicit like, oh, I'll give up my body. But yeah, she was willing to go pretty far to protect him. And he knew that she was upset about it. So he compromised. And that shows that he still had humanity left in him. So again, love no thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, hit the like, scream all you want in the comment section. It won't change the fact that I am the best in the world. I'm being sarcastic, but it will trigger you still.